Welcome everybody. This is going to be a quick tutorial on NextBuild-Studio. We will produce a small project and the project will contain a sprite that we have created inside NextBuild-Studio. We'll try and keep away from all the different rabbit holes that can pop up along the way. We'll keep it very focused today. So I've opened NextBuild-Studio. This is the latest version. I'm going to create a new project by clicking down here, New Project. I'm going to name this project My Little Test. Don't put spaces in the file name. I'm going to choose Layer 2 as the template, and the file will be created in the sources, so it'll be in this location here. So I'll click Create, and then we can open the project. If we look at the project, we can see NextBuild-Studio has created a very small template. We can press F5 on the keyboard to run that and see that in action. And we can press Escape to close down CSpect. The terminal window down here, we can press space twice to get that to close again. So we've got a framework now, and we need to import some sprites. So let's create a couple of sprites. I'm going to go over to the data folder here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose new file. I'm going to call it sprites.spr. Okay, if you call it sprites.spr, it will open in the sprite editor. This is the revamped sprite editor. So currently we're on the first sprite in the sprite block. And what I will do is try and draw something very crudely. I have no idea why I've picked purple. As you can see, I'm just using pixel drawing at the moment. Fill that in. We've got transform controls here. We can flip up and down, left and right, rotate round and back. We can shimmy across, shimmy back, and up and down. Okay, so I think we can probably, we've also got fill and clear here. On the palette editor, we can't adjust any of these colors at the moment because this is the default palette. We have to create a palette and use that if we want to adjust the colors. So we'll just stick with the default. And what we can also do is we can define a transparent color. So let's say the transparent color is going to be 227, which is quite common. So I'm going to press Alt on the keyboard and I'm going to left click, and that will turn that into a T on there. And then if we go and select that color and then bucket fill around our sprite, we can see now that's a transparent background. We're going to create a new sprite. Just going to click new, and this one can be let's fill that again, turn off bucket fill. Let's do a purple. I was going to say man, but I'm going to want to have a different color in the R color. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and then while clicking anywhere on the transparent area, I can press right click and it will pick up the transparent color. Now I can undraw as I'm drawing. So let's do that. We need to shimmy him down because he's got a rather large noggin. There we go. Looks a little bit like the Saint, maybe a little afro. I don't know. The first sprite is really atrocious, so let's see if we can do something about that. We're going to turn this into blue. Let's get rid of that. So look, how does it look up there? Right, okay. Okay, I had to have a pause and think there. This sprite's rubbish. So what we'll actually do is clear the sprite, and then let's bucket fill with the transparent colour. And what we'll have is just something very simple, which will be can be a bomb. Let's do a stalk. Are they called stalks? Fuses, that's what they're called. And let's do some red at the end of there. It can be like fizzling maybe. I don't know. Let's make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. That is, I'll right click again with Alt press down to pick up black. B for bomb. Okay, let's just cut that out. Okay, that will do for the bomb. As you can see, I've not left any room. Need to insert a new sprite, so I can just use Control and C on the keyboard, and if I do a Control and paste, it'll actually insert a fresh sprite. And then what we can do, this is the cool bit, we can open the animation preview, and let's set that scale to 4, and it's going to be from frame 1 to 2. Okay, and then if we go to frame 2, we'll set that playing. Let's see. Let's do some animation on that. I think that looks alright. No, that looks rubbish. Okay, I think that will do for the bomb. For the little guy, I'm going to recolor him. I'm going to color him all in deep blue. I did that by holding down C, picking a color and just selecting the colors that I want to change. He can have a red top half, a brown afro like this, maybe flashy colours like that. Let's take a copy of him and paste him up there. I'm going to move over to our fella. I'm going to try and draw him running. Okay, so he's got his leg like that at the moment. You really need a leg like this. Does he? Let's see. Oh dear. Oh my goodness, what have I done? Let's see what we can do. He's got legs like that. I mean, we could do the classic like this and the old skating leg. Let's maybe let's pop that one out a little. How's that? It's okay. It will do. So we've got a running fella. Let's give him some purple shoes. Make it. We care. There we go. So we've got a running fella. We've got a bomb. We're all good in here. So we'll save those sprites. So now we've got our sprite file. Let's go back to our little test. So if we'll run that again, I'm going to stab F5. Welcome to NextBuild. So let's get our sprite onto the screen. So we are going to add in another load SD bank. This time we're going to call it sprites SPR, and we shall load this into bank 36. Each bank is 8k. Sprites are usually 16k, so it's best to say 2 banks away. So we've got our sprites inside bank 34. Let's do a init sprites is simply init sprites 2, which will be let's have a look. Oh no, that's not right. Init sprites 2. So the number of sprites will be 4, the address 0, and the bank will be 34. Okay. Init the sprites. Then we need to make sure that sprites are enabled, and we do that via a next register, which is next register 15. So I'm going to type NR15, and we can see sprite control. I'm going to hold down shift and press tab, and then we can put a 1 to sprite control. If we see here, enables sprites. Okay. We might actually want them over the border as well. So let's do that as 3. So we've got our sprites. They're loaded into RAM. They've been initialized. The only kind of last thing we need to do now is to put one on screen. So we'll do the update sprite command, which will be it will choose 32 by 32, the first sprite ID, the first image of our sprites, and we'll leave the attributes empty. So if we press F5 now, there we go, we've got our bomb. We can't really see anything, so let's change it to our player sprite, which will be sprite 2. There he is. Okay, so it's going to get difficult remembering these magic numbers. So up here, I think I will do some definitions. So const player start frame equals 2 const bomber start frame equals 0 const bomb and in size equals 1, and we'll do the same for this, and in size equals 1. So that means that we'll only animate for one frame. So let's have a look. We need to define these as well as ubyte. Okay. Let's try and get all this neat. As ubyte. Oh, as ubyte. As ubyte. There we go. So we'll do player frame, player start frame. Okay. Let's load that up. And then now what we can do is let's try and move him across the screen. So we've already got a loop. We've already learned that this puts sprites on the screen. So this is the X position, this is the Y, this is this sprite slot or the ID. So you can have up to 128 sprites on screen, and they can be any image of the sprites that you've uploaded. So currently we're just using the first sprite ID, popping the player sprite in there. So let's move him from, let's do left to right. So if we're going to move him from left to right, let's make sure we've got some variables. So I'm going to assign X as a ubyte, make it equal 32, and then I'm going to assign Y as a ubyte, let that equal 32. The reason why we do 32 is 0 by 0 is underneath the border off the 256 by 192 screen. So let's plonk those in. We'll run the program just to make sure it shows our sprite. Yes, it does. And then on the loop we can do let x equal x plus 1. X is over 255,504. Then let x equal 32. Okay, let's see how that runs. He's not going anywhere. That's because we're not actually updating the sprite after we've made those changes. So let's take this away. Let's create a subroutine. So sub update player. That's what we'll call it. And we'll plonk in our routine there. And sub. And then in the main loop we can do an update player call. Let's give that a go. There he goes. So he's moving from left to right. We need to also make sure that he's animated. So let's make sure that he wobbles across the screen. So the best way to do this is we're going to need a timer. Okay. Why are we going to need a timer? Because this will control when we actually update the frame. If timer equals 0, then let's also add a frame. Current frame. Timer equals 0. Current frame equals 1 minus current frame. Timer can go back to equaling 3. Else timer equals timer minus 1. That's classic timer ending. So now if we do this, start frame plus current frame, let's give that a run with F5. He still seems to be quite quick. His legs are really going for it. Let's see if we can slow him down. Let's do that. Maybe 10. Oh, that's a bit slower. He's still moving around pretty quick. So we've got basic movement up and running. I'm concerned about the length of this tutorial, so we'll call this a day for part 1. We've learned how to open NextBuild, create a project, open the Sprite editor, build a small example program, import the data we created. So we'll see you on the next tutorial where we'll dive in a little bit deeper. Thanks a lot.